classes or our YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours, but because this is the weekend, the class should be there on Monday. Again, this is Felicia with Michaels, and I hope you have a great class. And over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Felicia and Holly. Welcome to class. We're here with Fiskars and Michaels, and we are going to be making a checkerboard pillowcase. So I'm going to be teaching you some techniques about how to make a really, I don't want to say quick because it takes like an hour-ish, but how to make a sort of quick pillowcase in this checkerboard pattern. If you're a quilter or you're interested in quilting, there's some techniques we're going to learn that makes this go much quicker than it actually looks. You will also be basically learning how to make an envelope pillowcase. This is really great for anybody that has pets or kids or spills a lot. So you can take this off and wash it anytime. We've just got pillow form. I've got a pillow form inside of mine. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about the tools that we're using today that have made my life easier. A lot of them are tools that I have used for the last 10, 15 years that I've been sewing, such as a version of this rotary cutter and the cutting mat and acrylic ruler that I'm using. So if you are not familiar with those tools, but you're really wanting to learn how to make sewing quicker and less stressful, then I'm going to do a little overview about that. At any point, if you have any questions, you can type them into the comments box, and Holly will be there from Fiskars to comment or respond to the Fiskars questions. These are all tools that are sold at Michaels. So whether you want to order those online, or if you have a store in your city or town, you want to pop in and see everything that they have. These are all things that are easy to get your hands on. We also want to say Happy International Left-Handers Day. I am not personally left-handed, but I do know family members that are, and appreciate that it can be a little challenging if you are left-handed to use some of the tools in the most comfortable way. So I wanted to let everybody know that is not already familiar about this beautiful pair of red scissors. This is the adult size version. It says on here left-handed, and you can write your name in Sharpie on here if you want and be like, nobody gets to use these except for me. So they are designed to fit comfortably in a left-hander's hand. Here's right-handed. So you can see how everything's reversed as far as where the blades are for easy cutting to see where your edge is, and also just the way that your hands want to fit in the grip. So go buy a pair of these for your left-handed friends if you are not left-handed, because they need them. It's going to make life better for them. If you have kids that are left-handed, I know some kids are starting back to school, some are still doing school at home, but they're going to need scissors. Fiskars makes left-handed scissors for kids. I don't have any myself, but they need to practice those fine motor skills with their little hands from a young age. Getting them a pair of left-handed scissors is really helpful for making sure they're developing those muscles, because that can affect their handwriting later on. And let me tell you, I have a 15-year-old who can work on his handwriting a little bit more because he was not much of a cutter when he was little. Anyways, so from a mom's perspective, left-handed scissors are really good. Fiskars is helping solve some problems. Also, another left-handed tool that they offer is the rotary cutters. It comes with blades that you can change out when they get dull. And all you do is you screw off this side. If you're left-handed, you just take this part off and put your blade on the other side and screw things back on the opposite way. And it is basically the same thing, but now you can see where you're cutting, and everything else on the handle is just really easy no matter what. So this is a really important tool for quilters, and I think probably for people who are even cutting things out for wearables. home decor for sure. This rotary cutter is really handy, makes life easier. So happy Left-Handers Day. Is anybody here left-handed possibly? Or do you have a left-handed friend or child? Go ahead and feel free to let us know because we like to hear from y'all. And for those who are right-handed, there are some other options, but left-handers can use these too. I wanted to show you about these. These are snips. I have a tiny, tiny pair that I had for like an emergency sewing kit, and it was okay, but I was always worried about my kids like poking themselves when they wanted to play with it, or if it was in my bag, I was worried about grabbing it, reaching in and grabbing it and stabbing myself. I was talking to Holly earlier, and she was telling me about how this is really great because you can close it, and there's this handy lock that keeps you from getting stabbed. So these are really great for traveling, or if you're just packing them to go from your house to your work, I don't know, wherever you might be using or needing scissors. These are great. Also, right and left-handed can use these pretty easily. Okay, I'm gonna set those aside. And I think I talked about these last time when I was here. These are really great for when you are needing to clip threads real quickly, like when you're finishing off a project and you need to get all those loose ends here and there. If you're doing embroidery and you're working with small tail ends of things or even weaving and you need to clip them off real quick, it's not like a big sewing project where you know, are cutting out a circle. These are really small, they're very sharp, and they're perfect for small spaces, I guess, and like they're light, so you can pick them up pretty easily. I keep these at my sewing table as well as my rotary cutter for all of my quilting projects. Now my bigger scissors the orange ones, we keep these in our kitchen. And I also have a pair here in my studio. If I'm cutting out big projects or I'm cutting fabric for like kits or something, these are great. But they're great for every day. We've had a pair of orange scissors since I was a kid. My mom always had these in the kitchen. So, personal life story. So let's get on to our project. Checkerboard, love it or hate it, it's trendy right now. It's not new, it's been around a while. If you had a pair of Vans when you were younger, you know you are familiar with checkerboard. There are many designers who have used them in the past, and it's just kind of fun to see it making a comeback. The checkerboard blocks were really popular with some quilting in, you know, let's see, quilts that were made in during the Civil War era and a little bit after that. A lot of quilters used this block, but you know, in a smaller size. And so it's kind of a timeless little pattern, but I want to show you how we can do it quicker, because you don't need to cut out each individual square and sew those together. We got things to do. So today I'm going to show you how to make your own. You don't have to make the 16 by 16 inch size that I've made. In fact, I think it was advertised as 18 by 18. So I'm going to show you how to make whatever size that you would like based on a little bit of math. Let's see, I'm going to set this aside. You don't have to use this for a pillowcase. If you make the top, you can turn it into a tote bag. You can turn it into a shirt if you make a big one. You can do a lot of things with it. So one of the first things that you will need is some fabric. If you want to do, like on this version, if you want to do a color for your backing, like the back part of the pillow, I would say that's the most efficient way to go and purchase fabric. And but you don't have to if you're using up fabric from your stash and you only have a little bit for the front. And these two colors, you really don't need a lot. I think it's like, if you're using yardage that is like 44 inches across, which is a standard size for the width of fabric, you only need about 6 inches of length, I guess. So, I mean, it's not a lot. You need that in these two colors. If you want to do this as the same color as one of the squares on the front, we're going to call it fabric A, then you will need to have half yard. So for your pillow backing, if you're matching it with one of the squares on the front, you need a half yard of fabric. If not, I would still say I would recommend about, and this is for a 16-inch size pillow, I would say half yard is a pretty good, safe starting point. You will have a little extra. So you could make an 18-inch out of that. And then your fabric B is going to be your second color on the front. And again, you need about 6 inches if it's 44 inches wide for the second color for fabric B. So fabric A, half yard, fabric B, about 6 inches, as long as it's 44 inches wide. Okay, now that's for your 16-inch size. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We are going to be cutting strips first. So get your 2 fabrics. Now, one of the things that I really enjoy when working with fabric of this size, if I'm doing a project where I have to cut anything that's over 12 inches, such as like this is folded, is my self-healing cutting mat. And I'm going to switch my camera over to show you real quick. And if my camera decides to not be turned on, just like that, hold on a second, I'm going to restart it because it goes to sleep sometimes. And it'll join us here in a second. Here we go. Okay, so I've got this fabric and it's going to take a second here to speed up. So in about 10 seconds, it will stop lagging. And my self-healing cutting mat, and this is Fiskars. You can find this at Fiskars in a few different sizes. I have the one that is 18 by 24. I also have one that is much larger. I think it's bigger than my table, so I can't use it on this table, but I think it's like 3 foot by 4 foot. But this 18 by 24 is great because it is perfect for quilting projects and blocks. I also wanted to show you one other project or one other tool. See if this is going to turn around for us. There we go. Now we're back in business. Okay, so this is a self-healing cutting mat, but it is really great for projects that are smaller than 12 by 12. If you need to cut a couple sides, you do it real quickly. You put it on here. Your acrylic ruler can go on top. You line up where you want to cut it. So I want to cut it along this 11-inch line. So I'm going to line that up here, make sure this line on my acrylic ruler matches up with the line on my self-healing cutting mat. And then I've got my rotary cutter here. It's got a safety feature on it. So if the kids get a hold of it or you drop it, it won't go. So you've got to make sure your safety is off, and then you push on it and that gets the blade forward, and then you put your safety back on. Now you can just roll. You don't have to squeeze it the whole time. So this is really great to avoid hand fatigue. This option is perfect. Okay. So I've got my fabric cut right here. Now I'm going to use this fabric later, so I don't want to cut it all the way off. But say you wanted to just cut out a square, you can cut the 2 sides that face you, and then instead of having to like pull your whole piece of fabric all the way around to face you the other way, you can just turn your mat. And if this was a smaller piece, it would have stayed on the mat. Anyways, my point being, this is a really fun tool for smaller projects because you can just cut without having to really get up and move the whole thing around. And once again, I'm going to cut out a small piece. There we go. Get this guy out of the way. See if you can see it a little better here. All right. So this cutting mat is great because the bottom piece stays put on your table. It grips to the bottom. Now I've got mine on top of my other cutting mat, so it's wanting to move a little bit. But all you do is twist and turn, and then you can cut, twist it, cut. It's just very handy. Again, it needs to be smaller than 12 by 12, but that is an option out there. So I'm going to set this back down here. And we are going to start cutting on, I'm using my bigger acrylic mat now. We're going to start cutting our strips out. Okay, so I've got this folded. Here's the loose ends. Got this folded in half. Here's where it folds. I want to be able to measure out. My side right here is already straight. If yours is not, you want to go ahead and make sure that you are getting a nice clean edge. You can do that by, do the other side there. Sorry, my camera is wanting to reverse everything. You can do that by, again, lining up your ruler, the edge of your ruler with the edge on your cutting mat, and giving yourself a nice right angle to start everything from. And I'm going to cut that a little bit further down. Okay, so now I want to measure out fabric A. I want to have 2.5 inch width for my strip. And I'm going to cut 2 of those. I'm going to cut off this little edge here. This used to be a skirt. I found it at the thrift store and it was the perfect shade. It was like tangerine. It makes me so happy. So I grabbed it and took it apart and decided it needed to be something else. Okay, so 2.5 inches is the size that we want to use for all of the strips in this pillow. And I want to show you. So 2.5 inches, it is going to stitch up to measure 2 inches. You can see here and here, because we are going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which means, if you're not familiar with that term, we're going to sew in 1/4 inch from each edge. So 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, that equals 1/2 inch total. So if you want a 2 inch square, you need to cut a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. But we're not doing squares, we're doing strips. So remember 2.5. That's how wide we want it. And then we're going to cut to get our length.
Rachel, we have one quick question. Can you re-explain the back size that you're cutting out?
The back, for the back of the pillow?
Yeah.
Yes. So the back of the pillow, if I have a 16 by 16 inch pillow, I'm going to cut 2 pieces of fabric for this, and that'll come here at the next step. I'm going to cut, they need to overlap because if they met in the middle, then your pillowcase, your insert would show. So the fabrics need to overlap. So I'm going to cut a 13 by 16 piece. I'm going to cut 2 of those. So if you have a 1/2 yard of fabric, 13 by 16 and 13 by 16 is going to be where if your fabric is 44 inches wide, then you're going to measure 16 inches wide, 13 inches long, and you're going to cut 2 of those. I hope that makes sense.
I think
So
that's
we are
good.
going
Thanks for
to-
revisiting.
Yeah. If you have your half yard of fabric, we are cutting out fabric A first, because this is the big one. And so, yeah, that is a good question about how exactly you want to cut it. With your long side, like say this is the 44-inch width, you're going to fold it in half so that it's like 22 inches. And then you're going to, sorry, here we are. You're going to measure down 2.5 inches and cut across so that you end up with like 44 by 2.5 worth of a strip of fabric. And then the rest of your fabric that's still here for fabric A, we are going to use to cut for our back panel. And that needs to be 13 by 16. It's a little bit tricky for me to show you the full context for this size. So I'm going to go ahead and make you a smaller version so you can see it within the camera frame. But for the finished project, for your strips, they need to be 2.5 inches by 44 inches. And this is fabric A. We're going to do fabric B here in a second. For the back side of your envelope pillow, you're going to need 2 cuts. And it needs to be 13 by 16. So 2 pieces of 13 by 16. And let's see. Say you're doing an 18-inch pillow. You're going to want to do like maybe 15 by 18. But I'll talk about measurements and how we can adjust for things towards the end. Okay, so I'm going to make a smaller version so that you can see it a little bit better. I'll cut this out. And all we need to do for the back sides is hem one small side. So this is going to be like 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 by 8, because that'll be easy for y'all to see. Okay, so far you'll have your 2 pieces of pillow backing, and it does not have to be the same color, but if you want it to be, to make it, kind of match, that's cool. Pretend this is 13 by 16, okay? And then these are 2.5 by 44, fabric A. I'm gonna set this aside because I need fabric B, which I have already magically cut for you. Okay, so we've got fabric A and fabric B. And then we have our back side. You are also going to need pillow form. I got mine, let's see, I think I actually had these in my closet. I make pillows a lot, so sometimes I reuse my pillow forms. You can get this online at Michael's or in their stores. I think some of them have pillow forms, different sizes. Let's see. Let me set this aside. We're going to work on our strips. Other than those things, you need straight pins, and then any kind of scissors that you're using at home, and your sewing machine. Iron and ironing board, super helpful. Okay, now we are going to get our checkerboard strips figured out. The best way to do this is to line up your fabric A on top of fabric B. The best way for you to not get wonky checkerboard corners, and let me show you an example of this. The very first one that I was working on, This is really cute, and it's got fuzz on it. There's this really cute green and blue one, and I really love it. But you can see here, just slightly, my corners are not matching up, and that's not really that big of a deal. But, you know, here it's getting a little bit more noticeable. It can slightly affect how excited you get about your project when something's not going according to plan. Also, you can see down here, my corners are not matching up. Now, if this is your first time sewing something like this, you're gonna learn as you go, you're gonna get a little bit better, but one of the best ways to ensure that you don't have this problem is to make sure that all of your fabric A and fabric B cuts are exact. Like, you don't want one of your fabrics to be like even that much wider than the other one. So another way to do this is stacking your fabrics together before you cut them. But you just have to be careful with wrangling it all on your table. But precise cuts is going to get you a really clean checkerboard pattern when you're finished. Another way is to make sure that when you are sewing these together, you're going to pin it first, and then you're going to want to make sure that you are really good at sewing a 1/4 inch from the edge right here. A 1/4 inch in is what we call our seam allowance. You don't want to have like a 1/4 inch here and then kind of steer a little bit wide and then get a little narrow. You want to keep that stitch a 1/4 inch all the way across. One of the ways you can do that is with a special presser foot. Sometimes they can come with your machine. Other times you might have to order it separately online, but they don't cost, I think mine was maybe $15, but it may have been less than that. And I'll show you here in a little bit. You attach that to your machine. It has a little edge on the foot, and it helps guide your fabric through. But if you don't have that, you can also put some tape on your machine to use that as a line guide. But precise stitching and precise cutting is going to go a long way to making sure that you have corners that match up. Okay, so when you're getting your 2 strips together, you want to make sure that they stay together. That's where your straight pins come in. I'm going to sew along this edge. So I'm going to add my straight pins. You can add as many as you want, but to be efficient, I like to do every 2 or 3 inches. If I get really confident in myself, I will just skip straight pins sometimes, but then I usually regret that. So yay, straight pins. These will keep your fabric pieces in place. They don't have to be evenly spread out. They just have to make sure your pieces are flush, the edges are flush with each other. Okay, so do this all the way down the length of your 2 pieces, fabric A and fabric B. I'm going to move that over here. My other tools move here, and I'm going to switch over to this camera. Got my sewing machine on. I'm going to switch over to this camera. And don't think you can see my machine from here, so I'm going to pull you down a little bit. Okay, so here's my presser foot. And right here, there's like a metal piece that keeps my fabric in place, keeps it where I want it to go. But again, if you do not have a presser foot like this, all is not lost. You get a piece of tape, turn this off, you might be able to see. Get a piece of tape, masking tape, and line it up with the notches that may or may not be on this metal plate. Mine has some. Tape can be easier to see. And then you can just guide your fabric through, making sure that it is lined up with that tape the whole way across. That's going to give you those even stitches. And we're going to start sewing from one end, one short end, all the way across. And I start with the back stitch. I have a knob here on my sewing machine that I push down after I get started, and that automatically will backstitch for me. Okay, now somebody asked in the last class, is it okay to stitch over your needles? The needle I have in here is, it's like a 14 or a 12, I think. It's pretty sturdy. I've never really had problems where that's messed with my straight pins. But if you're using a thinner needle for like lightweight fabrics, it might get bent if it hits a pin. So either carefully stitch over it or remove it right before your stitching gets to it. It's just a personal preference that you'll figure out once you're familiar with it. Okay, and another tip, don't ever pull or push your fabric through your machine. This is a pretty basic model. I've had it for, I want to say 5 years now. And the feed dogs underneath this metal plate, they will guide your fabric through for you. That makes sure that you have nice even stitches and nothing looks too bunched up. It keeps it feeding through at an even pace. So sometimes if it feels like it's getting a little stuck, you can stop and gently move your fabric this way. But most of the time, you don't want to push or pull, you just help guide. Okay, you are going to sew the entire length of your 44 inches. I'm going to stop here so that we can keep moving forward, and I'll show you the next steps. I always like to end on a back stitch so that it doesn't come unraveled. And now I'm going to use these scissors just real quickly because my machine, for some reason, I don't have an automatic thread cutter. So I keep those handy for that. So now, pretend you've stitched these two together, the whole thing. And I'm going to very quickly just pull that off. You can open this up and you can see how they're stitched together right here. Now, if yours is 44 inches long, you're going to want to fold it in half or just find the halfway point. You can kind of press down on your fabric to make a little mark. So you can see here, I have a little bit of a mark. And then I'm going to cut this in half. If you've got yours at 44 inches, then you're going to want to cut it into lengths of 22 inches. So you're going to cut yours in half. So pretend these are 22 inches long. Now I can just take the edge of the top piece and the edge of the bottom piece. So I'm going to actually switch cameras over so y'all can see this a little bit differently. Okay, so I'm going to take the white on this and the yellow on this, place them on top of each other. Now I'm going to line up the edges here. And again, I want to really make sure that these are even. I'm going to stitch together. Put your straight pins in. And again, this is definitely a smaller sample for you guys to see how quick it can be to get all of these squares. Okay, so now we've got that pinned together. I'm going to stitch all the way down that length. And I'm going to put my fabric under here real quick, get that turned on. stitch all the way across. Take out your pins. So now I've got 4 stripes. You are going to want to press these to make sure that everything is as flat as possible. Let's see. So we sewed together one of our strips of orange and yellow. Let me get my other one out here. Go ahead and do that with both strips so that eventually you have something that looks like this, but longer. Okay, but you're gonna have yellow, white, or fabric A, fabric B, fabric A, fabric B, fabric A, fabric B, 4 of each, okay? So you got 4 stripes of each color for 8 total. Each of these stripes, not the ones on the ends here, but the ones that have been stitched together, each of those stripes measures 2 inches wide now. See if I can show that to you. Okay, so these stripes are each 2 inches because we stitched a 1/4 inch on each side. So that ate up a 1/2 inch. Now there's still 22, pretend they're still 22 inches wide. Let's see if I can do this on a smaller scale again. This was my selvage for a project, but I'm gonna see if I can show you how to do it here. You wanna make sure that if your ends over here are not quite the same, that you clean this up. So I've got this part right here is straight, and this part going across the top is almost straight. I'm gonna square things up a little bit to make sure that I have a square pillow in the end. So I'm gonna trim off over here. And I'm gonna find the shortest part, and I'm gonna go straight down. Line that up. And trim this part off. Okay, so now if I turn this sideways, you can see it better. You can see that my 4 edges are all square. They all have right angles, okay? Now that we've got that, we want to make sure we are going to cut into pieces so that we can now make our checkerboard. So you've got your 8 stripes here. They were originally 2.5 inches wide. Now we want to cut 2.5 inches wide this way. So I'm going to use my acrylic ruler. I'm going to measure in 2.5. Make sure everything is lined up, because again, if you're really accurate in your cutting, then your pillow is going to look way better. I'm going to move this up here so that I can cut all the way down. Okay, so there's one slice off to the side. Now I'm going to measure another 2.5 inches. Check every time that everything is lined up. Measure twice, cut once, is that what they say? I say like measure 3 times. I'm that kind of girl. Okay, so once you start getting these cut off, you can see how you've saved a lot of time. Can you imagine if you just were cutting out 2.5 by 2.5 squares and sewing each of them together? I mean, you could chain stitch them so that you're doing 2 at a time, and then you could sew those together, but it's so much faster to be cutting these rows and then slicing them up. Okay, we're gonna do another one here. Two and a half. And if you have a little extra, save it for something else. You might have another project you can use it on. Okay, well, this is not looking like a checkerboard yet though, is it? So what we need to do, every other one, take it and you flip it. So yellow at the top. Now we have white at the top, yellow at the top. Turn this one around. Now we have white at the top, yay. Okay, so you want to double check that your corners here are pretty close to each other. Now I can see that most of mine are. This one's overlapping a little bit, but the rest of them are lining up pretty much. Then I'm gonna line up over here and then over here. If you have a really drastic overlap like this, then I would say that one is worth taking apart or pulling aside and then maybe trying again. Like if you need to cut more fabric, cut another few strips to get a better, more precise measurement, it's gonna be worth it. So what you are gonna end up with is twice this amount. You're gonna have 8 rows across instead of just 4 rows across. And it should be, this is for the 16 by 16. If you want the 18 by 18 inch, you're gonna have 9 rows across. And you'll need to cut a few more pieces to have a little bit more. But again, I'm gonna share those measurements toward the end and in the blog that we're gonna have linked up and ready for you in a few days. So you've got 8 rows, sorry. And there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 down. So an 8 by 8 will give you the size that you need. Mine is 4 across. So that means this is gonna sew up to be 8 inches wide. Now that's a pretty small pillow, but if you wanted to turn this into a quilt block, that'd be cute. Or if you wanna have the same color in all of the corners, then you would want to have 5 strips. But again, that's going to change your size. So there is a little bit of math involved. If you are wanting a certain pattern with your checkerboard, you're going to have to adjust things a little bit. Now you can make your squares, they can be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, finished. Just don't forget to add a 1/2 inch to each side. So you'll need to cut out 2 inches by 2 inches. When it's all sewed up, it's going to lose that 1/2 inch per square. So 1.5 inches times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna let you do some math on that. But you just have to adjust things accordingly if the pattern is more what's going to determine your block than the size of the finished piece. Okay, so now we're going to stitch these together. We're going to do 2 at a time. And again, you want to make sure that you are really paying attention to where your corners match up. This is my outside. I'm going to mark this with a pin just so I don't forget, is this the outside or is this one? And then get them all mixed up. So this is my top right corner. Marked it with my straight pin. And then the second one, this is my first column. This is my second column. That's going to go face down. And I Oh, one thing I did not share with you yet, that's super important. When you have all of your pieces together like this, before you cut them out, on the back side, like this, ignore those two. You want to iron every seam the same direction when it's all together, not like this. Oh, here's another one. Okay, sorry about that. So this part, I haven't ironed it yet. This is the one I just showed you before cutting things. I'm gonna iron these seams so that they all lay to the left, okay? And iron that flat. Pretend I'm ironing and they're all to the left, okay? So that when you cut them and you flip them, all of my seams here, they're all pointing the same direction, right? But if you matched up those two seams like this, you'd have like a lot of weight, like 4 layers of fabric to stitch through on this side and only 2 layers to stitch through on this side. It would create some bulk. And we want to avoid that because that can affect how flat your pillowcase is going to lay. But since we are swapping these rows, we're swapping directions, then when we fold them together, you can see that one of the flaps is pointing down, the other flap is pointing up. So now it's even. It's going to be stitched together. There's still going to be 3 pieces of fabric to go through on each side, but that will keep it more even and it'll just look nicer. So when you are at this point where you have all your rows together, don't forget that step. And some people like to open their seams up and press it flat. And if you are in the habit of doing that, I fully support that. It's a little bit more effort and time to get those seams to be flat. And if that's how you press them, then it doesn't matter which way you fold it. That's not going to matter at all. It just takes a little bit more effort to do that. Some people are really, really into it. Some people can't be bothered with it. It's not controversial, but I'm just saying, some people do, some people don't. Make sure that you do either this or press all your seams to one side. All right, we got to be quick. So line up your corners, and now we are going to stitch these together again. You're going to start from the top. You want a straight pin in every square so that it keeps your corners lined up. I'm going to skip that step just for the sake of time right now, but you want to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to back stitch and then stitch all the way down my row. When you open that up, you're going to start to see your checkerboard pattern showing up. And I'm going to finger press this real quick to show you how fun that looks. And your corners, yay, they're mostly, I mean, I'm going to be a little mad about this one for the rest of the day, but the rest of them are looking good, okay? So you want to continue that project, that process. Here's my corner so I don't get confused about which way's which. Now I'm going to put this one on top of this one, stitch down, put this one on top of this one, stitch down, and it's slowly going to be building the top of your pillow. Let me fast forward real quickly, because that can be quite the process to be watching. This is what we're going to end up with. Let's stick that over here. Now, we need to make the back side. Okay, so once you've got all your checkerboard together, another step you do want to take before we actually do the back side is, again, you want to square things up to make sure that you don't have a wonky front pillow piece. You want to cut here and you want to cut here. So trim your edges so that you have a nice square. And again, yes, all of these details are going to be in a blog post for you to link to for those that aren't able to follow along right now. And it will be also photos with step-by-step instructions, because you are not able to magically make your front pillow piece appear like I did. Okay, so next we want to have our two pieces. These are our two pieces for our back side. If this square right here is the size of my pillow, I want these two to match up on the edges here, but overlap somewhere in the middle, okay? And we want to hem the edges that overlap. So I'm gonna hem this length and this length. So the best way to do that, and I'm going to just finger press this real quick. You're gonna fold it back about 1/2 inch on one of your long edges, and then another 1/2 inch, and pin that in place. And again, this is a mini version of what it's going to look like just to fit on the screen. So this is the outside of your pillow. This is the top. This is the bottom. This is the part that overlaps. You're going to press this flat and you're going to stitch down the inside fold right here. Not here. I mean, you can do both, but this is the important edge to be stitching down. I'll do that real quickly without my sewing machine falling apart. Okay, so now you can see where I've stitched along that inside fold. You want to repeat that on this part. I'm going to fold this 1/2 inch in, and then another 1/2 inch. And you will pin those down and press it with your iron. And I'm going to show you real quickly so that we can get to this final step. Okay, so you've got your two back panels. One of them is going to overlap the other, depending on the width of your pillow. And let's see. I think my sample piece is missing here. So we're going to pretend like this is the checkerboard front of your pillow. This would be lined up along the top and the sides, and also the bottom. I'm going to trim this down so that it fits. Okay, so all of the edges are lined up and these two are overlapping. You are going to straight pin everything together and stitch all the way around the perimeter of the pillow. There's no need for this project to leave a gap because you don't have to worry about turning this inside out that way because you have this big opening right here to turn it inside out, right side out. So you're going to stitch all the way around. When you stitch into your corners, I like to kind of back stitch a little bit just to provide a little extra support. Okay, now it's ready to stitch. So you can start anywhere along the edge. I'll start in the corner. I'm going to back stitch here. And I'm going to have a seam allowance of 1/4 inch from the edge. That means I'm going to be stitching 1/4 inch away from the edge of my whole pillow. Start here, sew over, and when you get to where things are a little thicker, just gently, if you have to take your time, take your time. But you're going to stitch all the way around all 4 edges, okay? And then when you're done, you can pull out your straight pins and flip this guy inside out. I'm going to do a couple edges real quick because I want to show you about the corners too. And then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so for your corners right here, before you turn it inside out, you want to clip off the edge so you can see it better against the dark. Do not get close to your stitches at all, but clipping off the edge means when this is folded right side out, that fabric doesn't have to bunch up under your corner and then blunt it. So that's going to be an easy way. Every time you have something that you're turning right side out with a corner point, turn your corners off, okay? Then you will pull out all your stitches, turn it right side out, and suddenly you'll have a big opening that you can place your pillow insert into. If you want, before you place your pillow insert in there, you can poke your corners out with make sure you're not using your sharp scissors to do that because you can poke right through the fabric. I would say a pencil or a crochet needle or something to poke those corners out so that they are not super blunt. And then you can even press it flat so that along the edges, it's got a nice crisp line. I have kind of a generic pillow form in this, something with like down alternative or something that's really squishy. It would be gorgeous. But that is going to be how you end up getting your checkerboard pillow. Let me face this up here. So when we share the blog post, it's going to be linked so that you can go through again and follow all the steps to make sure you're getting and you'll be able to see everything so that it fits. Instead of just seeing a small piece that would fit in my camera frame, you'll be able to see in the full life size so that you can follow along. And I will share the dimensions for 18 by 18 or
Hi, we are so sorry that she has paused. Holly, do you want to say anything before we go ahead and let the class close out?
I don't think so. Just be on the lookout. I included her Instagram links So you can follow along to learn more about her blog post, and then we will be linking the YouTube on michaels.com as well and on their YouTube channel.
Okay. Well, once again, we want to thank everyone and hope you have a great day.